Right. We got all the things going, the live stream, the recording. Welcome to Follow Boss Office Hours. My name is Lee Adkins. I'll be your host along with Paige Orlando. What's going on, Paige?
Hey Lee, it's good to see you. It's been
Good
a
to
while.
see
I
you.
feel like I haven't
I
seen you.
know. I know. I know. It has been too long, but I'm excited to dive in today. We're going to look at Follow Boss reporting. We're going to look at Follow Boss reporting in a couple of ways. We're going to start at a very simple, maybe you've never used this before level, but we also want to show you all the powerful things that you can do, especially as you continue to give the system good data.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is like the perfect time to start looking at it. Quarter one is almost over. We've got, February 15th, November 15th, we start quarter one for 2024 at the end of last year. So you've got almost a whole quarter of data in your follow-up boss account when it comes to activity and production. And if you're not doing this on a regular basis, now is a really good time to do it, to see what activity is driving your production and then what can we do better at? What are we really succeeding at? I'm going to go ahead and I'll turn my screen share on and we can keep chatting
Go
through all.
for it. No, we'll dive right in. We'll dive right in.
Perfect.
Beautiful. And I want to say too up front, this is obviously a demo account, so it's not going to have quite the same beautiful data that hopefully your account has, but we'll do our best to show you what it looks like and cover some specifics as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like the fact that we don't have a lot of data in here, Lee, because what that does is that shows us that if we don't have our agents in here logging their activity, you're not going to have the metrics to be able to reflect. So it's always a good plug to make sure that your agents know how to log communication via Follow Up Boss, know where their smart lists are, how to utilize that. We've got lots of previous office hours and resources on doing those things. But if we are not doing those things, when we go into reporting, you're going to get a bunch of goose eggs like we're probably going to see on these as well. So just like to speak to that of getting started with reporting is getting started in Follow Up Boss on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And Follow Boss really does a great job of pulling in data. Like you can email people from your Gmail and that email, counts in Follow Up Boss. You
Right.
can do, there's a lot of things you can do really easily to get that information in there. And we will talk a little more about some adoption as we go, about helping agents start to do more of this. But I think at a high level Paige, yeah, let's just, where do you find reporting and what does it look like?
Yeah, one of my favorite things, like you mentioned, driving adoption. If you've got reporting that's not giving you good metrics, that's one way to drive your adoption. So your reporting tab is up here in the top of your screen, right next to your administrative pieces. And so I don't want you to get like overwhelmed looking at all of this because I'm a data nerd. I'm self-proclaimed. I love to look at this stuff, but there is the ability to go down a rabbit hole so quickly and so easily. And there's a lot of really good metrics that as you get comfortable with those to dive into even further. But on a high level, there's really only a few reports to look at where to be able to start to see what we need to dive into. And the agent activity report is one of those that's my favorite when I'm talking with team leads and they're trying to figure out what to do with their one-on-ones, what should they be taking a look at without even making any modifications to this particular report. It gives you a really great snapshot of what the agent is doing individually. So we can come in and filter whether it be just the digital leads that are being provided or any leads that are being manually added. Again, it's just a really great snapshot and we can zero this down into that time frame. So if we're looking at what's happened in this first quarter, put those custom dates in and pull through here. So as you scroll in the middle, you'll see you can modify. Again, we can talk customization all day long. We can look at these, but you're going to see that snapshot of how many leads your agents are getting and what are they doing with them? Are they logging their calls? Are they emailing? Are they texting? Do they have appointments? This is that first, let's spend 5 minutes looking at your most recent activity. And when you actually have some data in here, that number is going to be clickable. So you can actually dial into a particular lead and look in and analyze those particular individuals and see what notes are you getting, what text threads do you have happening, what that conversation is. So it creates a very organic way to dial into what's worked really well for us and what hasn't.
Yeah, that's great. Paige, do you want to flip it to all time so we've got a little bit of data? I don't want to like confuse things for people, but At least all time we can see a
Yeah.
little bit of information in here. And I love, yeah, everything that's blue is clickable. And it basically drills you down to that specific information or those specific contacts or those appointments or whatever. This is a huge easy button to just check, like, hey, what's April up to? Hey, what's Caroline up to? I mean, you can literally, like, it's all right here.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're having looking at your own metrics, but sitting down with a coach or something like that, this is going to allow you to dive into that. So clicking on that 18, it's going to show you there were 18 calls made to these 6 different people and pulls that list straight up. So you can dive into what did Joey Tribbiani say on that phone call and get into the details of reflecting how well we've performed this last quarter. Not only are we saying your activity is really great in here, but what's working for us, what's not, what's converting, what's not. This is that first layer, that surface level snapshot of how to get into those details.
Absolutely. And the graph at the top too. I mean, again, since this is a demo account, there's not a lot, but just a simple graph. You can see there's a drop down there for monthly. So that's basically showing every by month, each dot is a month from February 2021, which is, I guess, when we created this account, until now. So it's a pretty easy graphical representation. And again, this is everybody because we're on everybody. But if you drill it down to one agent, you'll see this same graph specific to that agent.
And that's one thing that I like. We're talking about, we're in a team account, so to speak. So if you're a single agent, this is going to look just like your individual metrics. But if you're looking to coach or train and you're on an account with multiple people and you have multiple visibility, hitting this drop down, you can segment out to that particular individual and just speak to their metrics and keep the other metrics private. And Lee, I actually learned this from you on one of our office hours, that if you're a team lead and doing those things, you can actually, these URLs are going to be unique to that agent that you can just bookmark very easily. So rather than having to toggle back and forth, you can just have your folder of your individual agents with their customized metrics that you're looking at.
Yeah, and an extra pro tip for that is to put it in an email template or put it in like a custom field if you're really fancy. And then you can actually email your agents and be like, hey, it's Monday, check your reporting, make sure you don't have any unactioned leads, make sure you made your 5 calls or whatever that is. And you can bookmark them in Chrome. So if you just want to have bookmarks for each of your people, then that works too. It is really handy though. And if your platform, then you can use teams. So instead of dropping down by agent, you can use your teams to say, I want to see reporting for this team. I want to see reporting for that team. It's pretty lovely.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Again, this is one of my favorites for those one-on-ones. If you have activity in here, this is how you're going to be able to dive that in. So circling back to that adoption concept, if you've got an agent that doesn't have activity in there, you can't coach them. And there's a little bit of exposure there. So they have to know, oh, he can see that I didn't make any calls this week. Did you make calls or did you just forget to log them? And so diving into those pain points of getting that adoption on the right track. Anything else you want to add to this one, or do you want to hop over maybe to the calls report?
I don't think so. Well, actually, you know what I do want to mention, just because it's really important, and I think a lot of people, and I'm answering you guys' question in the chat. Is just the web leads versus all versus manual. I just want to explain briefly what that is. So that middle drop down next to the people and the time frames has 3 options. And I just want to be really clear, at a high level, web leads are leads that come through lead flow. So typically, probably if you're paying for leads, if you realtor.com, Zillow, YLOPO, Real Scout, like whatever you're using, those are the leads that flow in automatically. So typically, I like to be on web leads when I look at reporting, because if somebody did a big import or they met some people, those are all considered manual. If they a single ad, those are all considered manual. So sometimes you don't want to see an import mixed in with your leads. It can really throw off the numbers. If it's like, oh, why does Paige have 1,000 leads this week? It's like, no, she uploaded her contacts from her phone. So, and no, Katie, that's a great question. There is, to my knowledge, there is not a manual way to make that. If they come through lead flow, they're web. If they're imported or typed in, they're manual. Well, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good call out there. Having that information for you, being able to segment out. If you want to look at all of those leads, but if you know a big import has come through, then of course you can segment that right there. Then that's that customization that we're talking about on what we really want to be seeing on our reports. And so we didn't get too much into the customizing because we want to keep it very like surface level bird's eye view. But similarly to here, these columns that you're seeing, if it's not important to you to see the tasks that are completed because you're relying on your smart lists and you don't use those tasks for anything else, you can modify and choose what you see on this particular report. And so again, not to get too much into the weeds with that, but that's part of that customization that you've got. We're looking at web leads and we're looking at the activity that truly matters, that's going to give us intel of what we're trying to see.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny because Paige, we talked about this a little before we went live. Like on one level, it's incredibly simple. And on another level, you could spend 3 weeks going through all the things and check this and click that. And what does this do? And what does that do?
Mm-hmm.
But we were really, anyway, sorry. I'll let you keep going. I won't go too far down the rabbit hole because I'm the same as you. I could literally spend 3 days on this and just all the things, but
Yeah, a lot of it really is thinking about what's important to that segment of your business. And when we know what's important, we then can know what to look for. So keeping it service level of the things that are ideal for most people's business in this industry, but also if you've got a different angle or you have a different focus, that's where the rabbit hole comes down to play, but it doesn't have to be complicated.
for sure.
I'm going to move on to the calls report.
Perfect.
Time to talk through that if you're good with that.
Great.
We've got all time on here, and I'm going to go back to everyone so we have more metrics. Again, this is a platform demo account, so there's some data in here, but not a lot. This is one of my favorites to also use when you're looking for training and coaching and accountability and all of those pieces that we need, because it's showing you not only the agent activity report shows us calls. This one's going to dial into the success of your calls. Because when we see we've made a lot of attempts, but we're actually able to segment out because you're using your follow-up boss number, how long those calls are lasting. So if they were longer than a minute and maybe it's just like a lengthy voicemail, or if they're longer than 2 minutes, we know that if it's lasting longer than 2 minutes, there's some sort of productivity in that conversation, understanding their intentions, understanding their needs and their wants and their motivations. Those are the ones we want to dial in at. From an accountability perspective, we're looking at, I've made 100 calls and I've not had a single conversation. Well, that's a perspective of evaluating time of day, evaluating if you're fudging your numbers a little bit or something like that. Or are we just really struggling? So if we're flipping on the other side, we've made a lot of calls, we've had a lot of conversations, but we don't have any contracts to bring to you. Let's go listen to those conversations. You can have that call recording turned on. And just like that other report, you can click through to those people and go listen to those conversations together or with a coach to see what type of objection handling you need to improve at, or what did you really crush on that call to get you that $1 million contract. So this is one I just really like to look at for coaching, but also that accountability, making sure that beyond just that number of calls, what's really happening in those.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I want to mention 1.5 things really quick. We did a great session a long time ago with Albert Vasquez, and he does this really cool thing. Actually, sorry, it's 1.5 things. It's the same thing, but I'm taking a short but roundabout route there. They would use these conversations actually before connected was a thing. They would use conversations. That was the goal. It was something to the effect of like, he just wanted his agents to have 5 conversations a day or something to that effect. But what was cool, he would literally screenshot this and like put it in Slack, and it became kind of a competition of like, hey, Sally's at 4 conversations today. Jimmy, you've only had 2. And so my B point of this, positive reinforcement is going to generally get you more adoption here. Katie, I'm going to have to answer your question live and then also type you an answer. That in my opinion is what drives adoption. Catch somebody doing something good And then in the meeting or in Slack or be like, hey, Sally did this and she got an appointment and she got a $2 million lead because she called him 5 times or whatever that win is for you. But that's always better for adoption than like, why aren't you doing this? You're not doing this. You aren't, it's always better to get, and just feels underhanded. But even on your team, if you work with a group and, you can get a small group of agents who might be a little more techie or whatever the thing is, to start to adopt it and be able to use them as the, hey, Bobby hit his goal today or whatever. That's really going to be a lot more likely to get you adoption than just, why aren't you doing it? You need to use it. You got to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And to speak to that a little bit too, when we were talking a little bit about this on the Conversion Summit back in December, Tristan made a good point as a call out. Not only is it that, but it's also a way to look and be like, are you okay? If your numbers are vastly different over the last month, is there something going on in life that's kind of getting in the way as a roadblocker? So just the way that positive reinforcement, but also that genuine like care towards your agents is going to get
Right.
you more adoption. So
Right.
it's
Maybe
necessarily
more of a why, like, why aren't we doing that? More of a touchy feely conversation of like, why, or how can I help you do this?
right. What is our roadblocker? And so this information shows us where those roadblockers are, and then how can we solve for them? So it does surface even more than just objection handling and those particular things. It surfaces a genuine conversation with who you're looking to whether it be a team lead or a coach or whatever the case may be if you're a solo agent. But this is definitely one of my favorites.
We have one question I answered in the chat, but I'd like to say it out loud because I meant to early and I totally forgot. If people are in here, if you're a team or brokerage, you have multiple users, if you're an agent level user, you can only see your own. You can't see other people's leads. You can't see reporting on those. You can't see any of those things. It gets a little trickier if you're an admin or an ISA team lead, if you're on platform, but admin level and owner, generally speaking, can see everybody's reporting, but an agent won't even have that everyone drop down. They'll literally just see their own. And that, loosely speaking, goes for all of reporting. The agent can see all of it, but only their own numbers and their own leads.
That's right. And that's a good call out because that means there's a lot of privacy there. So the agents can rest in the fact that they can have their communications and know that those conversations that have sensitive information are confidential, knowing the admins will be able to provide that coaching, but that privacy is so important. And so they're only going to see their particular numbers, which is where those positive reinforcement call outs happen because they can't see what's happening on this
Right.
call with everybody.
Right. Don't lie, but they can't see it. So you can over exaggerate how well they're doing if that's useful for you.
Right. And that kind of actually that leads right into, and we can circle back to this one if you'd like, and if there's something else you'd want to cover, but talking through like those competitions and gamifying and positive reinforcement is the other one of my favorite reports is that leaderboard that they can see how they're standing up next to their colleagues. Is being able to, we assign points inside Follow Up Boss for them doing the activities that we're speaking on. So having a lengthier conversation, you're going to get more points than just the dials that you're making. Securing those appointments gets you closer to a contract. So they're weighted based on that information. And so I see a lot of people use this as, like I said, that positive reinforcement and that internal competition that we will compete for pencils if we're going to, because that's just who we are by nature. And being able to have that visual and be able to like make that a positive thing as far as driving that activity beyond just bringing down the why aren't you doing what you're supposed to. I love this visual. I see a lot of, if you're like pro or platform, if you're a larger group working together, this goes on like the TV in the conference room so that it's on display for everybody to see those particular points. And I was on a call earlier today with a couple that were relatively new to the industry, and they are so competitive of who's at the top of the leaderboard. And that's how they're getting their contracts very quickly.
Yeah, let's show the exclude real quick. I'm a big fan of the exclude because like if you have ISAs or if you're still in production and your production is way more than other people's, that's generally not in my opinion, a motivator. They just think you're taking all the good leads. So sometimes you might want to hide an ISA. So that little button with the, it's kind of a head with a circle across through,
Yeah.
will open up the ability to hide. And now, to be fair, this is only hiding it from this view. You're not hiding it from, say, another admin's account. You're only hiding it here. But again, if you wanted to put it up on a TV in the office, like Paige mentioned, but you don't want, this idiot Lee to have 21,000 points and over your other agents. You're like, that's not going to motivate anybody. Let's hide him.
Yeah, so you can just exclude it, and you can go back and take that off if there's a different type of competition that you're working together. I've had teams do like cumulative type competitions together rather than individual. So if they all get a cumulative score of a certain amount, then they do some type of like team building experience where they go out to dinner together or something like that. So there may be times that you want your ISA involved, and there may be times that you don't. So this is
Right.
off.
Or if you're fancy and have an ISA team, then they can be a team and you can look at their leaderboard separately from your buyer's agent team. Again, I don't want to get too crazy in the weeds, but Paige, I can't help it.
I know, I'm the same way. Like, it's one of those things. If you can apply this information, there are ways that you can drive to better success. It starts with living and breathing in here, and then you're able to analyze and drive it in the way that you want to. Do you need more accountability? Do you need more culture building to be able to have those pieces? And so, speaking back to what we said earlier, what are you looking for? What are you trying to measure for? And then how can we tailor this to a view that makes the most sense for your structure and what that goal is?
Absolutely. And I agree with that 1,000,000%. Start simple. Like if you're not using this right now, don't try to get everything, all the things. Figure out we're focused on calls. Cool, we're going to do this. Oh, Amy, that's a great question. We're going to answer that live. Don't try to get all the things. Start with, okay, we're going to measure calls. We're going to do this thing. We're going to, focus on appointments this week, whatever that is. Somebody asked about the numbers here. What do these numbers mean? Which I can't believe we didn't cover. It's an aggregate score from activity that has been done in Follow Up Boss. And you can see if Paige mouses over the appointment there, it actually shows the point value. So you can edit these. That's always the first question. You cannot edit the point values, but they're pretty good. There's 500 points there for an appointment. So appointments are weighted a lot more heavily than sending an email or sending a text.
Right. And the design, like we were mentioning, the design behind that, they're weighted based on what's getting you closer to a contract. So a conversation like this one here is going to be weighted more than those attempts, but those attempts are going to get you to that conversation. So it's like that buildup of engagement to the appointment. And so this is that combination, that added score based on your time frame. So again, customizing that out to we're going to have a monthly competition, or we're starting Q2. So we're going to show that. And again, that cumulative score or that individual competition there.
I'm a big fan. What I like to do is every 7 days, but I'll check it every 7 days. So then I've kind of got an apples to apples. Every time I'm looking at it, I'm in 7-day chunks. So it's like, oh, last week we were at 15, this week we're at 17. Like it's just a little easier to process when you're using it consistently and you're looking at the same time frame. If you're jumping between 7 days and yesterday and 3 weeks and all time and all that, it's a little harder for your brain to just, you need to do that to drill down. But once you get good at looking at this regularly, I like to set a consistent time frame. So it just kind of like, those numbers make sense to me. It's not 300 one day and 15 the other. It's 15 one and then 17 the next.
Yeah, I like that you say that. I like to do that as well. I think it's a known fact that we at Follow Up Boss use Follow Up Boss as our platform.
We don't say it enough though.
We practice what we preach. And it's funny, like as a success manager, we look at this pretty regularly just on our own. It's not even something that like we're told to do, but we have our goals of how many clients that we need to work with throughout the week. And we nudge and tease each other all the time when this leaderboard, somebody jumps up and because, an appointment came through or something like that. It's a really fun way to see how you measure up against people, and in a fun morale way. We're like, wow, we together did a lot this week.
Absolutely. That's great. Couple of quick, really great questions. And Paige, I was about to answer this, but I wanted to confirm. Agents can only see their own activity on the leaderboard, correct? They can't see other people's leaderboard activity. I'm gonna have to log in as an agent and just look. I'm 99% sure, but I'm gonna log in as an agent somewhere and look.
Yeah, I am too, because it's been so long since I have been in a solo
I'm
agent.
quite confident that's the case. Paige, I can tackle that if you want to tackle. There's another question, or we can just demo this. Somebody asked about, there's only 3 people at the top. Like, can you mess with that? You cannot, but what's interesting is when you go to full screen, and I don't think we have enough people to do it, it actually scrolls. Oh, well, we hit a few people, but you can't adjust that the top 3 are up at the top, but below that, everyone else is listed unless they're excluded. And if you put it on a big, oh, that's awesome. You guys are answering. Okay, I'm wrong. I'm glad I didn't type that answer, but
Yeah,
I'm wrong about you
the
can
agents
see other
can
agents.
see all of the
But you just
points.
see their activity. You don't see leads. Like, it's just literally activity.
They can see it on the leaderboard. They can see just their points. Yeah, you
Right.
can't click over and like look
Okay.
at the segmented people that they've called, but yeah, they can see their points.
Thank you guys for checking that and confirming that. I was totally wrong with that. And same with deals leaderboard. I would
I've
assume it's the same
It is, but I've second guessed myself anytime we're trying to confirm
because they
something.
can't see deals on the cards, so they shouldn't be able to see deals and deal totals.
They can see that information on the leaderboard. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Well,
Now,
we
again,
just learned something.
they won't be able to click through on the actual deal, but
Right.
that information that's on the deal card when it comes to value and if commissions are put in, then that information does reflect in an agent's login.
Okay, that's good to know. I like to tell people the truth when I answer questions, so now got that one down. But point is, you cannot adjust the people at the top 3 spots on the leaderboard. But if you have a lot of people and you go full screen, it'll actually scroll automatically, so everybody's on there. It's not like it only shows the top few people. It shows everybody unless you exclude them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Paige, you may have done this while I was answering questions. Can we go back to call log real quick? You may
Yeah,
have jumped to it, but I think if you did, I didn't see it.
I didn't. We got in such a
I
path.
got so excited about it.
Yeah, the way that conversation went towards leaderboard, it just felt natural to skip it, and I missed it too. But in the calls report or in the calls reporting, there you can do a drop down of call logs as well. So you can start to look in times of calls and listen to calls straight from here.
Yeah, and it shows you the inbox. If it was a direct call to them, it was inbound, outbound. It's just all the things. And once again, at the top, you've got the filters for if you want to look at one agent's calls in particular, you can do that. If you want to look at our calls this week, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, that duration that where if you want to come in and listen to calls, you probably don't want to listen to the one that was logged 1 second. It's probably just a hang up. So segmenting out and being able to see the duration of those and which ones you want to listen to and focus on.
Perfect. Thanks for going back to that. Like while we
Yeah.
were there the whole time, I was like, we got to go to call logs. And I started answering questions in the chat. And
Yeah. Yeah. No, the
I
conversation just flowed over to that one. So happy to bounce back over here too.
So
One
yeah,
of
oh yeah, agent goals is good next. I'd like to do appointments too without getting too in the weeds, but I think appointments are a key part of this.
Yeah, let's pop over there. Since we're talking call logs right now, it makes sense to call logs are going to take you to appointments. Now, again, this is customizable in an owner account as far as like the types of appointments you have and the outcomes that are associated with that. So you can segment out those filters as well. This is going to give you, again, all time, segment down by team, segment down by individual agent, and look at the type of appointments that you have happening inside your account. And when I say types and outcomes, these are actually a part of the appointment card in the contact profile. And so if your agents are filling this out, you can actually filter through how many buyers consultations did we go on last week? How many listing presentations? And then also on the flip side of that, if they're circling back and putting what happened on that appointment, well, we went on 4 listing presentations and 2 of them no showed. And so again, just dialing into what is actually happening with our people.
Yeah, and it's got the source there, so it makes it real easy to say, oh, look, all of our realtor.com leads are signing buyer brokerages or their listings or they're all no-shows or whatever. So again, using this to inform, your marketing, where you're spending money, your lead routing. That's another thing we didn't even get into, and I don't want to get too into, but having great reporting allows you to potentially route the right leads to the right people. I tell the story a million times. I'll give the short version right now so we can keep moving. But we had an agent on our team many, many, many years ago who just closed a bunch of realtor.com leads. I still don't know why. At that point, it wasn't even Fault Boss. I literally had a spreadsheet for the reporting. But every time I did his one-on-one, it was like realtor.com, 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 realtor.com. So I just started routing more realtor.com leads to him. So using this to help you make more informed decisions is totally where it's at. And it's largely automatic if you can get the adoption into your account.
Yeah, it all starts with that adoption. And like you mentioned, this as well, like if you've got an individual that is closing a lot of realtor.com leads to determine who's getting those, but then also that takes you over to reporting on what lead sources are serving you very well and what lead sources you're struggling with. Is it information that you're not receiving from that lead source? And so we've got some ways to look through those particular things as well. So from the agent perspective on who's crushing it with this lead source, and then in general, maybe we need to put some more money into our past client sphere of influence because we are converting them very well right now. And so that information is in here that you can pull from. Do you want to pop over to agent goals?
Yeah, agent goals make perfect sense because it's kind of the aggregate a lot of these things. So
yeah, absolutely. If we're talking through, we have our activity. I mean, the whole idea from having activity is to make more money and to have more deals. So based on a total year progress, you can actually set your commission-based goals here in the reporting for agent goals. Again, agent's going to see their goals report and their goals report only. Admins would be able to use this as a snapshot. And so if we're going to open up Bridget's here, this is going to give her the annual aggregate snapshot of what's happening in their account. So just another visual of a lot of the types of reports that we've looked at specifically. This kind of just brings them all together for that particular person. As they put their deals inside Follow Up Boss and as they put their commissions, if you have a goal here, this bar here will actually start to like thermometer up, giving you that visual motivation that we're getting closer to that goal, or maybe we're off track a little bit, and going in and evaluating and dissecting, again, what's working for us and what's not. So I really like this visual just for when you're looking for coaching and just for having it all in one spot. That full snapshot. This is a year to date, so you're only going to be looking at from the previous years. You don't segment out based on months and quarters from this particular view. But again, it's just another really great, what have we got going on here?
yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I think this is simple. It's a great, easy one-on-one type thing. You're having a one-on-one with an agent, you just pull it up, like, okay, here's all their deals, here's their appointments, here's their recent leads. Like, it's all right there, a real easy button for that. And it's super simple. I mean, it's just simple. It's largely tied to data and money goal, and then people can add personal goals as well there, but like it's largely just tied to activity and commission. So it's pretty simple. I'm trying to tackle, part of me is typing some answers to people, and part of me is like, well, this is on topic, so I want to cover it.
Right.
Oh, Amy, no, 100%. It can be, well, it's annual for here for the goals themselves. So you're setting an annual goal. But as far as all the rest of the reporting, obviously you can go into any of those and do by day, by week, by month. You can even do custom dates. You could even say, show me everybody from January 16th until February 1st. So you can do that. The goal setting is only yearly, which is kind of the point. They're setting an annual goal that's broken down into the reporting. And Will had a great question. What are the best reports to look at daily? Maybe we can each answer this, Paige. I mean, personally, there's a couple of things. And actually, can you hit the dashboard real quick? This just actually hit me yesterday making a video for somebody. The dashboard has actually got some pretty simple, again, demo account, some pretty simple metrics right across the top. If you go right to the dashboard, it's going to show you how many new leads you have in X period, how many contacts attempts per those leads, your average speed to action. So this is actually a wonderful place to start. You don't have to touch anything, but you can see some high-level stuff. you know. But my favorite reports are, I think we already hit them, the agent activity.
Mhm.
And then I like to also, can you hit agent activity real quick? I love, we didn't get into this on purpose, but that drop down where it says total lead count, if you can drop that to unactioned or how many we've not acted on, this is incredibly powerful. This is literally going to show you everyone in your follow-up boss that has never been, that doesn't have any communication log. And so this is a really powerful way to go straight to the 3 people that somehow never got a call or slipped through or whatever. So I'm a big fan of mainly the agent activity, but this drop down. And then we already looked at the call log, but I just love seeing like they made 100 calls today and this happened and this one answered. I just like seeing at a high level, like all the things that happen. And I like the properties one, but I'm a weirdo. That one is kind of a mappy thing that's kind of, but this shows actual inquiries in your follow-up boss on properties. I
Right.
would put this in my listing presentation if I were you and say, hey, look, we've had 300 inquiries right around this zip code. You should list with us. We've got all the people in our database. So now they're taking us totally off the rails. Paige, what are your favorite reports to look
I
at
would
regularly?
I would 100% agree with you that agent activity is one of my favorites. I like the leads not acted on once we have good adoption and once we have good consistent activity. This is going to be more telling once we do have that information because it's going to be dialed in. If you don't have a lot of adoption right now, it may be a number that is really scary, but it could also be because they're not using their phone number properly and that sort of thing. So I do like the total lead count and total agent activity. And I like that on from a weekly perspective, when especially depending on when your one-on-ones are. If you're doing it biweekly, then that would be fine as well. But I love that one. I love the calls report. I always highlight calls report when I'm talking to my clients with that, because again, that's what's driving you into the details of what's happening with your clients. And I particularly, not to get too much in the weeds, I also really like the text report.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too, because the score or the delivery rate.
The delivery rate, there's been a lot of conversation this year about making sure that your integrity of your phone number is protected and not being flagged as spam. And you're calling the right people, you're reaching the right people. And so we decided to be as transparent as we possibly can with what's happening with your phone number based on what carriers are seeing. So, your answer rate matters, your response rate matters. Those that are telling you that they've opted out or using language that carriers are not delivering because it's cash buyer and it's viewing that as a marketing text as opposed to an organic conversation. I like to keep an eye on this one daily just because if you are having bad delivery, you're not going to be converting anything. And so not only do we want to make sure our brand and integrity is protected, but we also want to make sure that we are connecting with people so that we can convert. So I really like this one as well, just from a totally different perspective of the business than what we've been talking about. But it's one that I really like to talk about with my clients.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And now I can't help it, but last one, let's hit batch emails. Because if you're using batch emails, this is really important because not only is it your deliverability and all those things. Yeah, well, totally. Like you gotta know your text, especially right now while they're really cracking down. You gotta know that you're sending, they're being delivered, stuff is happening. But one of the things I really love about the batch email report specifically is the opens and clicks. And it's not a huge deal. Like every platform that can send email shows you that. But what's amazing about it is you can click to drill down to the people that opened or clicked it. And that's a fantastic trigger to follow up. Because then they're like, oh, that's so funny that you called. I just read your newsletter yesterday. And you're like, don't say I know, but I know, that's why I'm calling you. So using that to drill down, things as simple as you can add a tag to all those contacts and say, hey, agents, call everybody with the tag opened email 21423 or whatever. But again, another cool way you can drill down, or you have a high bounce rate, is your list dirty. You can click on the people that are bouncing and remove their email addresses or remove whatever tag is getting them to get the batch email. So a lot of stuff. Will, great question about MailChimp. Those will not show here. They do show in MailChimp, but the clicks and if you have the true integration set, the clicks and opens do show in Follow Boss, just not at a reporting level. It's in at the contact level. So you can go, oh, these people opened it. That's a great question though.
That is a great question. It's one that we get a lot. But like you said, to drill down and to circle back to the calling and texting, who should you be calling and texting? If you're sending out that batch email, that's where you're getting, hopefully you've got a call to action in there so they do re-inquire and opt back in and give those permissions for you to start calling and texting them again. That's going to get you closer to a person. Like I said, I just read your newsletter yesterday and was thinking maybe it's time to list. It's going to give you a more focused group of people to engage with. And it's also protecting the integrity of your email addresses. And, you're hearing a lot about the integrity of your email addresses and spam. And, Google is cracking down on spam as well. So
Today's the day. Make sure you
we're
do
getting
your
a lot
DNS
of phone
stuff.
calls about it. We're getting a lot of phone calls about it for sure. And of course, we're happy to help, but it's a super simple process. I'm not going to get in the weeds of all of that, but it's one of those so that you can have a better deliverability. Not if you're noticing now that your deliverability is not great, this could potentially increase that. So that's really exciting. Not only is it best practice, but it's going to be something that Google is going to require of you in order for those marketing emails to continue to deliver. So make sure that we're looking at those things. We want to stay in compliance so that we know who to contact. We don't want to just blow up a database of people that we have no idea where they're at. We want to meet them with intentionality.
Right. And I think more than ever, that's actually a great way for us to kind of wrap, I think, things. And thank you guys for being on. Thank you for the amazing questions. You guys have been awesome. You keep me on my toes, answering all your questions while we're still going. But I think that really is where it's at, Paige. Like that focus, the segments, the spray and pray no longer works. Emailing 10,000 people and hoping that they, the one of them replies for something is just, everybody's been doing it for 5 years. And so now they have to crack down, and you have to be even smarter about how you reach out to people and do things. So, Amy, actually, we'll wrap with Amy's question. So talking about adoption and Follow Boss phone number. So there's a couple of things. Number one of the things I always tell people is your past clients, they're probably just going to call your cell phone. We get it. Like, fine. I'd rather them use your Follow Boss number, but we can't make them do that. For new leads coming in, 1,000,000%, why don't give them your freaking cell? They won't have it. Use your Follow Boss number. But number one, there's the easy button of the data just being there. You don't have to remember to log a call or any of those things. And another great tip for adoption is to create an email and or text template that basically just say, hey, this is Amy. Please say my direct number. Because a lot of times too, they call in on a team inbox or a company number, or like, you don't know what number they're calling to get to you. And so a great follow-up is to have an email template and or a text template to say, hey, this is Amy. Here's my direct number. Please save it. They don't know the difference, and they're not going to text your cell phone at 11 o'clock at night. They're texting your Follow Boss. We totally get the adoption thing. Literally every day we have this conversation. And I'm like, well, I don't want to use it. Well, my past clients are never going to change it. And they're like, okay, great. It's fine. But
yeah, I mean, I would agree with all of that. It's a lot of it is degree of separation from business and personal. There's a lot of value to that with the real estate world because we know it never sleeps. And if you need to turn it off because you're on vacation with your family, or if you've got something, critical that's happening in your life, there are ways to get assistance with your team as far as forwarding that number goes. And then, like he said, having it all logged and tracked and potentially recorded just by having the conversations, it's saving you time from having to go back and sit down in front of a computer and type in a bunch of notes. A lot of times we know that typing in those notes, it just doesn't happen. And then also diving back into that calls report, if you're logging those notes and you're struggling with scripting and objection handling, we don't have much data beyond just logging the calls to be able to assist you with that, unless we just do some basic role playing. True conversations, we wouldn't be able to help you with in those particular things as a team lead. But what I wanted to, I turned my screen share back on really fast, and I know this is kind of like off topic, but like you mentioned, the email and text templates to sending that number.
Yeah, let's
In
do the V card because Will just asked about it.
Yeah,
You're so smart.
your profile settings have your virtual business card with this information and your follow-up boss number on it. And so editing those card details, if there's anything additional that you want to be able to, but you can text this out from a contact profile right here. You just click attach that card and it just texts right out, and you can pull that template of whatever script you want to use, but then they can save it right there. So another really easy way to get that number out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so good. Will just posted that question, and I was so glad you were headed there. V card. Perfect. But please add some text to it. Don't just send them a V card. Just follow up with that. Actually, will answer that right now and then wrap. I think a good script is just literally like maybe two. One for you, one you talked to, and one for one you didn't talk to. Just something to the effect of like, great talking to you guys. I wanted to be sure you had my direct number. Be sure you save this in your phone so I can always, be sure to get back to you quickly, or the best number for to reach me for a quick answer or whatever it is. Make it feel like they don't know you have a different number. Just tell them it's your number.
One of my favorite things to speak to, like you mentioned, like current clients or past clients or sphere of influence wanting to use your personal cell phone number. Totally get it. That's fine. Make sure you're logging it. But I hear the script and I use this a lot in trainings, that if you're going to start to adapt that fault boss number fully, the easiest thing to do is to text out that V card and say that your business has grown to the point where you now have the need for a business line. Make sure you save it in your phone so that if I reach out to you on it, you know that it's me. I've had agents come back and tell me that they have had transactions from that script because it sparks an organic curiosity of how is your business growing in a market where there's a lot of
we heard real estate was bad. Like it literally starts the conversation.
Exactly. So that's one of my favorite scripts.
That's really good. We have to wrap with that. That's perfect. Thank you guys for being on. Paige, thank you for being amazing and always doing a great job on these.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good to see you.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. And we'll email out this recording along with any relevant links later today. So hopefully see you soon.
Thanks. Bye, guys.